youngest Chaitanya, isn't that? He must be our youngest Chaitanya.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of us can come here. You have to try to bring that kind of projector in.
Is it possible to write down? Visible enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it better or?
It's definitely better.
इसके ना फिर सारा वो सब कुछ better नजर आएगा.
तुलसी माँ आने वाली लाइट बंद करें.
ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for coming today evening. And I think we've been through it almost after 6-7 years. We are having a program in your home here. I think long before the pandemic, most of the time we have program in the temple. So it's wonderful to be here also. We've been through the Gundicha Mataji's home. I think they are the parents of the congregation. I feel since the first time I came here, for the first time only they came through, when he saw me, he gave me a big hug. In the cold of America, I felt the warmth of his affection. So of course many of you know tomorrow it is his auspicious birthday. So I wish you very happy returns of the day too. Over the years, the way through your love and care and thoughtfulness and service attitude, you nourish this community. And every devotee, every brahmachari who comes from India, whenever I talk with them, the high points of their memory is coming to your home and getting the hospitality of both of you, as well as being like a community which you have helped nurture so lovingly. I was in Naperville some time ago, and there also we have a nice community of Indian devotees coming up in one area. So I was telling them that you should replicate the Edison, what you can improvise that over here. So thank you for your amazing service, and I seek your blessings so that I can also do my own small service from my side. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Grace Devanand Prabhu ki Jai.
Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji ki
Jai.
Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is out. Personally, is my.
So it is not my birthday.
He's very close to my heart. I can say he's one of my, in my 3 Shiksha Gurus, he's one of the top. I I really have driven so much inspiration from his wisdom. I remember when did you come first time?
2014.
14, yeah. So it must be 13. I think I was listening some online classes. I believe he gave some class in Rama Gopinath temple or somewhere. And it was just, my head was like blowing, that who can go this deep and this, and with humility, with Vaishnava etiquette. And I remember picking up the phone, my cell phone, and calling from office. I found his phone number through somebody. I never knew him, never spoke with him. And I called and I said, Prabhuji, you must come to America. I said, this is your place. So he said, well, I never came, these are other things. I said, everything Krishna will arrange, but you please come. Somewhere or another, he arranged his visa. We didn't do anything, and Krishna arranged everything. Started coming and touching so many hearts. And I think since then he didn't go to any other country either, right? Before America, you went to UK or other places?
No, Australia was the first country, America was the second. But America is where spending the most time.
But since then, he's been visiting Australia, UK, and spending like good 3 months in America, 1 month in Australia, what other?
1 month in UK.
Yeah, and India. And devotees just love him so much because of the way now he started drawing and making flowcharts. So all of us are like, we have some background from computer science and we like these arrows and flowcharts. Just like mesmerizing how easy Krishna consciousness is through his way of presentation and going so deep and touching our hearts. Really, my life is indebted to you, really. I wish I could just, I told him once in one of these years in 2014 and now in last week, I said, maybe Krishna can make me your driver. I can drive you around the world, one of these days. But it's really
you can drive me back to Godhead, Dhruva.
That's this way. But I have that longing in this way.
And Chaitanya charan, Lord Chaitanya was always worshipping Devaki Nandan. And I like the charan of Chaitanya.
I'm happy to lose. I will never win here.
So we have Gaur Purnima coming next week, and we have Ram Navami coming afterwards. In India, there is a lot of Ram consciousness after the Ram temple, and our devotees in Ayodhya are doing amazing service, distributing so much prasad, so many books, and I was also there. We had very beautiful darshan of Ram Lalla over there, and our movement is also acquiring a very big property over there, and we plan to have a guest house. So, where devotees and others can also come and experience this wave of devotion that is coming. So, I have been writing a book on the Ramayana, so I also studying Gaur Leela a little bit because of Gaur Purnima. So, I have been exploring what are the parallels between the two. So, there are many subtle parallels which can be drawn, but I'll focus on a few broad principles and I'll go into one pastime which illustrates certain key points. So, if we consider from one perspective that the previous, most of the, like Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, they came as Kshatriyas. Gauranga Mahaprabhu comes as a Brahmana. And that itself shapes their mission differently. See, the Lord is above time. The Lord is above time and place. That's what it means to be transcendental. At the same time, when he appears at a particular place, more or less, he first fits into that place and then he rises above that place. That means, when Lord Rama appears, so it's like the spiritual domain, this is the material domain level. So when the Lord is eternally present here in the spiritual domain. Now we're talking here Lord specifically as Bhagavan, as Paramatma is present in this world also. As Bhagavan, he is present in the spiritual world eternally. Then as an avatar, he descends to this world and he stays here, and then after that he departs from this world. And like that he keeps coming intermittently. Sambhavami yuge yuge. Okay. When he comes repeatedly, his overall purpose is to establish the Yuga Dharma at that particular time. So, and of course he performs Leela, which is what is remembered by others. So in one sense, the establishment of Dharma is for that time. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge. But then what about other times? After he comes and goes, will again disorder come? Well, yes and no. What the Lord does is, after he departs, there is a legacy that he leaves. And the legacy that he leaves is in terms of two things: his Leela and his Shiksha. What he has done, his pastimes and his teachings. Now, his pastimes and his teachings, they can guide us for the rest of history. There are special times in history when the Lord appears, and for remaining times in history, as Kunti Maharani says, Bhavesmin klishyamananam avidya kama karmami shravan smaranarani karishyan itikechana. So broadly speaking, these are not absolute watertight categorizations, but the Leela is for the man. For the mind, we can get absorption. The Shiksha is for the buddhi. That gives us conviction. The conviction and absorption are related, but generally, if somebody is watching a movie, and if it's a good movie, then you don't say, oh, I have to concentrate on this movie. No, if you have to concentrate on the movie, that means the movie director did a lousy job. Isn't it? The movie should be absorbing. In writing, it is said that what is written without effort has to be read with effort. So if the author does not do the work of thinking through the thoughts, then the reader has to figure out what are you written over here? What are you saying? But the point overall is that. So the Lord provides sustenance for us for both. And that is the enduring legacy which he provides. In fact, if you see in the Bhagavad Gita also, 4, 7 and 8 is Dharma Samsthapanartha Sambhavami Yogi. And 4, 9 and 10 is about his Leela. Janma karma che me divyam evam yogatitavata. Maybe some of you can come here. Are you able to see this? Or maybe you don't want to see this. So when the Lord descends, the Janma Karma Chemedivim, that verse is about if for all time in the future people can remember him and then they can come back to me. So the Lord does both these things. The Lord Ram came thousands and thousands of years ago. Relatively speaking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came recently. So the first commonality is that they share the mission. What is the mission of the Lord? in one sense there are many specifics, but there is one common mission. The divine descent is meant to inspire the human ascent. When the Lord comes to inspire us, to instruct us, so that we can raise our consciousness. And ultimately, we can raise ourselves from the material world to the spiritual world. So that is the, you could say, the universal mission of all avatars. Now, having said this, apart from this universal mission, there are specific missions at specific times. And generally, when the Lord comes to this world, there is always some background of trouble. Now, there is some kind of disorder, there is some kind of disharmony, and then through that the Lord appears. If we consider Lord Ram's appearance, there is that Dashrath and his queens, they were trying to have children for a long time, and somehow it was not happening. And then they perform yajna. So we can say born after sacrifice. The sacrifice here was basically yajna. A special yajna was performed and was born after that. Now in the case of Shachimata, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and before him his brother was born, Vishwambar. Vishwarup. He was born before him. Now there they had children, but they kept losing their children. So there he was born after special Vishnu worship. You see, the Chaitanya says Vishesha Seva, that when they repeatedly just couldn't have a child, and they performed, rather than losing faith or becoming bitter, Richimata and Jagannath Mishra, they perform more and more worship of Lord Vishnu. And the Vishesha Seva, when they did, then they got this children. So both of them appeared. There is whoever has that fortune of making the Lord or anything sacred manifest in the world, they have to do something special. The reason for that is that the Lord wants to see how much is our longing for Him. So, tatra laulyam api maulyam ekalam. So it's not that Krishna doesn't want to help us, Krishna doesn't want us, Krishna doesn't want to come. But Krishna wants to see how eager are we for Him. And when we say laulya, it's an interesting word that Chaitanya Charitamrita uses, no, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition uses, specifically the Bhakti Samgita Sindhu, but other places also it comes. It's greed. Now, why laulya specifically? Because the principle here is that we already have laulya for many things in the world. So we may have laulya for money, we may have laulya for fame, we may have laulya for power. So what needs to happen is our desire for Krishna has to become greater than our desire for the world. For the world means for whatever things are there in the world. It may be many things, different things specifically. But if not greater, at least there has to be some level of comparable desire. So we have the power of desiring. And where are we directing that power of desire? So both of them had to perform certain austerities so that the Lord would appear. Now, if we go forward from there, afterwards, well, as I said, I'm going to focus on key similarities, not an overall analysis. See, what happens is, in both cases, the father departs. Now, in the case of Lord Ramachandra, what happens is, after his exile. So Lord Ram is not there. In fact, Dashrath Maharaj departs out of heartbreak because Lord Ram has been sent away. It's generally a parent would rather take suffering on themselves rather than let their child suffer. That's just the nature of parental love. And in the case of Dashrath Maharaj, he's a king, he's a protector. You see, we all have certain things which we are good at. And not necessarily good in the sense that we are proud of that, but we know I can do this well. And then we can do that well to help others if somebody is very good at cooking. Then, if they are good at cooking, then they would like to cook and serve others. If somebody is good at organizing, somebody is good at managing, somebody is good at logistics arrangement, whatever. Then whatever is we are good at, we try to use that for helping others if we have a service attitude. And then if in the very thing we are good at, if we are not able to help others, rather somehow our actions end up causing harm to others, then it becomes unbearable. So say somebody is a doctor, and not just for money, they really want to, they care for others. And then somehow something happens from the doctor's side and the patient condition worsens or the patient dies. Now, sometimes legally the doctor may be cleared, you did not do anything wrong, but still morally the doctor will feel responsible. So like that for Dashrath Maharaj, he is the protector, and he would like to protect his children from all suffering. He wants to give the best to his child. And somehow for him, the thought that because of me, my son has to live in poverty. It's like, you say, it's the ultimate heartbreak for Dashrath Maharaj. What happens is that because it prevents suffering, that's what his heart would have wanted to do. But the exact opposite is cause suffering. Now the fact that he was obliged to do that, that's what he would have wanted. And this is what he would have dreaded. So when somehow there is something which is like a driving mission of our life, and we end up doing the very opposite of that, then the pain becomes unbearable. This is what happens to Arjuna also in the Bhagavata, the first canto of 14-15 chapters. Arjuna is a protector, and when he fails to protect Krishna's queens, he's utterly devastated. And at that time there, somehow he remembers the message of the Bhagavad Gita, and he understands that whatever is happening, Krishna has a plan. That's how he somehow calms down. But Dashrath Maharaj is just not able. What is the point of living if I become the cause of suffering for my own son? I just can't maintain his life. So he departs. Now in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is that his father also departs. But he departs after Mahaprabhu's, his elder brother's sannyas. So he's after Vishwarup sannyas. He feels, again, the pain is similar. And there are Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas who commented on this. So what they further described is that actually, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very mischievous and Vishwarup was relatively mature, but both of them were very close to each other. And Jagannath Mishra's fear was that just like Vishwarup has left home, maybe Vishwambhar will also leave home. And we know the extent to which he went. He said stop his education for some time. Because why? The idea was that in the past, the idea was that jnana almost always leads to vairagya. That the more knowledge we get, especially the knowledge of Shastra, then we understand the temporariness of this world. And then we become detached. So this was actually Vedic education. But actually today's education, it is what? The whole jnana is for raga. It is not for vairagya. The whole knowledge is about how we can enjoy the world more. Scientific, technological advancement are basically at one level. Just ways to try to enjoy the world more. So he thought that I don't want my son to renounce. So he stopped his education. But then he was so spontaneously attracted Vishwambara to education, to study that. His father just couldn't. And they were said, everyone said, why are you stopping it? So then he reluctantly agreed. But still that dread was there for him. And so it was both, the cause was not just the loss of Vishwarupa, the fear that Vishwambara may also do the same thing. And then we see that echo of that same thing later on in the Haridas Thakur pastime. Haridas Thakur says, my dear Lord, I have understood that you are soon going to depart from the world. And he says, I can't bear to see that. Let me depart from the world before you. So in one sense there is this agony. And then after that, if we consider, it's like there is the home and then there is the forest. So there's a beautiful verse in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the same verse, the Acharyas have explained, can refer to Mahaprabhu, can refer to Krishna, can refer to Ram, can refer to Mahaprabhu. So, Tyaktva sudustyajya surepsita rajya lakshmim dharmishta arya vachasaya dagadharanyam maya mrugam daite psitaman vadhavat vande mahapurushate charanarindam. Vande mahapurushate. I offer my obeisance to that great Lord. So in that verse it says that Tyaktva sudustyajya, that which is very, very difficult to give up. Surepsit Rajya Lakshmi. That Sura Ipsit, that which is aspired for by even the Devtas. Rajya Lakshmi, that which is blessed by the goddess of fortune. There's two meanings of that. That which was blessed by the goddess of fortune, or that which was blessed with the goddess of fortune. It can mean both things. That so, Tyaktva, he gave it up. So what happens is, Lord Ram is in Ayodhya and he goes to Dandakavanajana Pavan Ram. So first he goes to Chitrakoot Triniketan Ram. But then, especially the big action starts when he goes to Dandakarani. Now, Mahaprabhu is in Mayapur. Now, Ayodhya, of course, was extremely prosperous. It was blessed by the goddess of fortune. But suddenly, Lord Ram had to leave. Why? Arya Vachasa. Arya Vachasa is because of the word of Arya, of a Brahmana. This was not a Brahmana, but Arya. Arya refers to Brahmana or Kshatriya. Otherwise, he's basically a respectable person. As Prabhupada said, one who knows the value of life. So Arya Vachasa Agadharanyam, he went to the forest. So he went because Dashrath Maharaj had given that promise and he wanted to honor that word. In the case of Mahaprabhu, Mayapur, the whole Navadvip area was actually both it was intellectually prosperous, it was intellectually a very renowned area. And Jagannath Mishra and Yashimata were not very wealthy, but they had what they needed. It's for different people, based on what they value. Wealth is defined differently. If somebody is interested in learning, if somebody is interested in knowledge, then if they are in an environment where there are many learned people and there is a lot of deep discussion, and they will feel, no, that's what is a wealthy place. And that's why, because it was so rich with the wealth of wisdom, that's why there were Pandits like Keshav Kashmiri and others, Digvijay Pandits like that, would come to Mayapur to try to establish their glory over there. So Mayapur was also prosperous in terms of the wealth that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in a Brahminical family would value. But then Agadaranyam. From there, where did he go? He wanted to go to Vrindavan. But where did he end up going? So this is interesting. What exactly happens, we'll discuss over here. That he goes to the forest. Aryavachasa yat aghadharanyam. And then Maya Mrugam Daitaya Ipsitam Anvadhavat. Anvadhavat means he followed, he chased. Maya Mrugam. The Maya Mruga, that word has different meanings. What does it mean for Lord Ram's Leela? The magical deer, the illusory deer, the golden deer, Marichi, who had taken up that form. So, Maya Mrugam Daitaya Ipsitam Anvadhavat. So, Daitaya Ipsitam. That Ipsitam is desired. Daitaya is by one who is dear. So, it refers to that. Sita desired it. And so, Anvadhavat, Lord Ram chased after that deer. So now, what is so special about this particular thing is that Lord Ram, his Amogha Sharam is described. His arrows never missed. And normally when he had to fight, even when he was fighting against the entire army of Khara and Dushan, 14,000 demons were there. And there actually Lord Ram just stood at one place. And he didn't have to run. Even when he is fighting against, he fought before that against Subahu and Tataka. And even later on when he is fighting against Ravan, there are very little few incidents of Lord Ram actually running from here to there. He is just so powerful at fighting that from one place. See, normally when you are fighting, enemy fires, then you try to dodge the fire. You try to find strategically the best place to be in. But Lord Ram was so good at fighting that he just stood at one place and destroyed the entire army of Khara and Dushan. So, but that Lord Ram he chased. That's why this particular incident is special. Anvadhavat. Now, why did he chase? At one level, it was because he wanted to please Mother Sita. He felt Sita has given up so much for me. She didn't have to come with me to the forest. But she came. And she has practical level asked me for anything. So now she has asked me for this deer. I must get it for her. So that the similar aspiration is that when in the Pandavas are in the forest, at that time Draupadi, they are by a lake, the Ganga lake, Mandakini Ganga, and then they see that 1,000 petal lotus has come down. It's flowing. And Draupadi sees her eyes light up. And when Bhima sees that, he just jumps down and gets that for her. Now, at this point, Arjuna is not there. Arjuna has gone to the heavens for performing tapasya, for getting celestial weapons. And then, seeing how so happy Draupadi is, where does this come from? 1,000 petal lotus. Can you get more of these? So Bhima says, yes, I'll go get it. And he goes up the Himalaya. That's where he meets Hanuman and all the things happen out there. The point is that the desire is to please. So that with that desire, he chases, Lord Ram chases. Now that's for Lord Ram. Now what does it mean for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So Maya Mruga Daitaya Ipsitam Anvadhavat. He says that all the living entities are like the Maya Mruga. They are all illusioned by Maya. So there it is like Lord Ram chased after the illusory deer, but here it's like we are the deer who are chasing after illusion. And the deer is chasing after illusion, and what is happening is that Lord Ram is chasing after that deer. The Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is chasing after that deer. Maya Mrugam Daitaya, because the living beings are so dear to him. Ipsitam Anvadhavat. So if you look at, we hear about Mahaprabhu South India tour, we hear it North India tour. In those times, touring was not at all easy. And Mahaprabhu went to so many places. At one level, Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi was going to various holy places. But actually, he was not just going to holy places, he was making places holy. By his traveling, he was actually Mahaprabhu's tours. Externally speaking, they were to go to holy places. But he was going to those holy places, but while he was going there, he was also, the places where he was going, he was making them holy. He was inspiring everyone to chant the holy names, to become infused with love for the Lord. And in this way, he actually enriched the hearts of everyone. Now Lord Ram, when he was there, every avatar, like we say, he has a purpose. Valmiki Ramayana starts by saying that Lord Ram's purpose was to, in one sense, establish the character and behavior of ideal person. And the ideal person is, in the Ramayana, is one who is ready to sacrifice. So Lord Ram sacrifices for the sake of his father. So that sacrifice is a mood that runs throughout the Ramayana. And that culmination of that is when, just like there is what, if you see the Ramayana sequence, you must say the key incident is Dashrath and Ram. And there is a great sacrifice over there, where Dashrath has no desire to send Ram away, but he is obliged. He is obliged. Now, in today's world, to some extent, we can understand. If you're given your word, you must keep it. In the past, for Kshatriyas, they were defined by that. Have to keep your word. So that sacrifice happened because of some obligation. And that same mood of sacrifice culminates in Ram and Sita being separated. Now, externally, the reason seems to be different. That Sita was accused of something, and you say, well, how did Ram believe something like that? He's supposed to be just. Yes, he is just. But in this case, the Lord Ram never considered Sita to be in any way contaminated at all. And even if she was not her fault, so why should she be held responsible at all? The point over there is that the specifics of the rationale, why did Lord Ram have to send Sita away? Those are something which are not as important as the principle. That Lord Ram and Sita are demonstrating the ultimate sacrifice. That just as Dashrath had no desire to send Ram away, and it is not that Ram was a victim when Dashrath sent him away. Similarly, Ram actually had no desire to send Sita away. And Sita is not a victim when Ram sends her away. Sita is, of course, heartbroken when she has to go away from Ram. Just as Dashrath is heartbroken. So that Lord Ram is also distressed when he has to go away from his father. And that's why he said in the forest, when he comes to know that Dashrath has passed away, then he offers water in the forest, in a river. He's not there to do last rites for his father. So similarly, Lord Ram had no desire to send Sita away. But because of circumstances, he was obliged to do that. And he did that. He still had complete faith in Sita's purity. And that's why he would have her effigy with her when he would perform yajnas. And no one objected. And the Brahmins who were performing the yajna, they would have objected if they had considered that there's some impurity over there. There's absolutely no impurity. So rather than seeing this as Lord Ram believing in some unsubstantiated accusation or thing like that. The principle of the Ramayana, the thread is of sacrifice. And everybody has to sacrifice in their own ways. And the most difficult kind of sacrifice is the kind of sacrifice when you give a lot and you don't get praise for it. Rather, you get criticism for it. You suppose, say, we are building a new temple and then somebody gives a lot of donation. And normally somebody gives a lot of donation, they're glorified. They should be glorified in a lot of service. But suppose somebody gives a huge amount of donation and they do it anonymously. And nobody comes to know about it. And they don't get any praise for it. But everybody thinks, you have so much wealth and you're not given any donation. And the person who has been most generous gets criticized for being miserly. How difficult would it be? So actually, that is a sacrifice that Sita has to perform. Now she's heartbroken, but she understands. She doesn't become bitter. She doesn't become angry with Ram. She understands what is going on. And the proof that she understands is that she never poisons the minds of her children. She doesn't tell them, Rama is such a terrible person, he abandoned you, abandoned me. She doesn't do that. So, the gopis are considered such exalted devotees because they give themselves up to Krishna. And at least the queens in Dwarka, they had Krishna's name. They were lawfully wedded wives. The gopis didn't even have Krishna's name. So they gave everything to Krishna and Krishna apparently gave them up. So that is actually a very exalted level of sacrifice. The sacrifice is in a continuum. First is that we give up the bad. Say like we follow 4 regular principles. So sacrifice in the service of God, in bhakti you can say. We give the bad or the sinful. Then after that, so you could say bad and sinful. Then we could say just we give up materialism. We stop chasing a lot of wealth, lot of material things and power. But then after we may even have to give up the good. Good in terms of those who really renounce and live a simple life. They even may not even take the basics. The other Goswamis would live under different trees. So good in terms of basic material things. That may also be given up. But good in terms of even a pious reputation. When that has to be given up, that is the greatest sacrifice. So Sita actually does that sacrifice. The gopis do that sacrifice. Now in one case, in one sense what happened with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eventually takes sannyas, then that is a great sacrifice for him. The sacrifice for him, it is sacrifice for his family, it is sacrifice for all the devotees. Now, if you see, if we try to approach the Lord's pastimes from a pure, just a materialistic vision, then sometimes it's very difficult to understand. But we need to look at it from a deeper vision. So there's one Bengali commentator, he recently the article became a little bit online on social media. He says if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God, he was going to renounce, then why did he have to marry again? Isn't it? After his first wife passed away, he married again and then he abandoned her. He would not have just married also. But the point is that the consorts of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are also the goddesses of fortune. They are eternally there with him. And whether it's Vishnu Priya or Lakshmi Priya, so they are eternally with him. They are like Bhudevi, Sudevi, like that. There are various ways they are described. But the point is that they are also illustrating that mood of sacrifice. So when the Lord departed, he actually spoke to every one of his associates. In Mayapur, every one of his associates, he told all of them that I have to renounce, that I have to spread the holy name, and I have to, and the only way I'm going to do it is if I take sannyas. Then the message will be respected. And the devotees were devastated. Mahaprabhu sat down with Vishnu Priya, also explained to her, and told Chaitanya. And that whole section in Chaitanya Lila is one of the most heart-wrenching sections. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is leaving. And in fact, there are some Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's retellings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, some of his biographies, they just don't describe Mahaprabhu's Chaitanya's pastimes. Why? Because it's so painful. So like that, even there are some Lord Ram's retellings that Rama and versions that just don't talk about Sita's being sent away. So it's actually sometimes sacrifice is painful. And Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi is demonstrating a certain level of renunciation, which is in the Supreme Lord, and it is demonstrating the supreme level of renunciation. The supreme level of renunciation is that I was in Pune many about 15 years ago. So one day one boy came to me and he said, what is the process for becoming a brahmachari? Now, I had hardly ever seen him in the temple, not doing any services. So I said, you really want to become a brahmachari? He said, yes, but Sunday I'll be deciding. Really? I said, what is going to happen on Sunday? He said, I have proposed to a girl. And she has said she will reply by Sunday. If she says no, I'll become a brahmachari. So now, actually, there is a huge difference between frustration and renunciation. So, what is the difference between frustration and renunciation is that it is actually the differentiation between starving and fasting. The two are not the same thing at all, isn't it? It's like you consider two things over here. There is the desire to enjoy, and then there is the ability to enjoy. So when there is frustration, what happens is there the desire to enjoy?
Yes.
Yes, it is very much there. But the ability to enjoy is not there. Now, ideally speaking, when there is renunciation, actually, there is the ability to enjoy, but there is no desire to enjoy. Now, when Mahaprabhu renounced the world, it was not because he was frustrated in family life. Vishnu Priya was the most devoted wife, and they had a very sweet family. So, when he renounced, it was a sacrifice for both of them. Like there's an American comedian who said that, my wife and I, we drive in different cars, we eat at different times, we live in different rooms, we come and go out of different doors. We are doing everything to keep our marriage together. So it's already a shallow shell, there's nothing in it already, but it is not like that. So Mahaprabhu demonstrates renunciation. And what was the purpose of that renunciation? That spirit of sacrifice was so that more and more people would actually benefit from the blessing that he was giving. The blessing of the holy name, the blessing of the Yuga Dharma, of ultimately of Krishna Prema. And ultimately, I said the Lord's descent, the divine descent is to inspire the human ascent. So what is that human ascent? The human ascent is ultimately that mood of sacrifice, of selflessness, so for each one of us, we may never have to renounce the world. Even as most of us, even those of us who are brahmacharis, we may renounce the world in one sense, but we are still very much in the world. And the principle is not so much what we renounce, but it is what we renounce for. What are we trying to do after renunciation? So that mood of sacrifice, it is, there are two aspects to it. What we give up and then what we take up. What made Prabhupada special was not just that he took sannyas. There were many of his godbrothers who were lifelong sannyasis. But what distinguished Prabhupada, his godbrothers were also exalted souls. At the same time, it was Prabhupada who fulfilled the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tudeya Chaitanya Garatikram, Sarvatra Pacharoni Murnam. In every town and village, my name will be chanted. So what made that happen was not that Prabhupada gave up, it's what he took up. He took up the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like no one else. What Prabhupada's mood was that Mahaprabhu's prophecy is my responsibility. The Lord has said it, the Lord said this will happen, so he will make it happen. No, not like that. Prabhupada says one lecture, when Krishna shows Arjuna the Vishwarupa, and Krishna shows him how all the warriors on the opposite side have been destroyed. So Prabhupada says, Arjuna doesn't say, Krishna, anyway you destroyed all of them, so why do I have to fight? Just destroy them. No, he doesn't say that. He says, I will take the responsibility. So this is the mood of Srila Prabhupada. So in our particular place, wherever we are, how can we take up that responsibility of serving Srila Prabhupada, serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, serving the mission of the Lord whenever he descends to the world? It is that responsibility that we take up that is what ultimately enables us to grow in our spiritual life. Prabhupada would say that our spiritual advancement is proportional to the responsibility that we take. So, responsibility in the bhakti sense has a special, sometimes you feel, I don't have this ability. Maybe I can't preach, I can't distribute books, I can't manage. There's so many things I can't do. So actually in bhakti, it is a devotional responsibility. It is, you all have heard this, responsibility, response plus ability. But in bhakti, it is our response to God's ability. That it is our response to God's ability. And I may not be able to do it, but God can do it. And if He wants to do it through me, He can make me an instrument to do it. So Prabhupada says in the Markini Bhagavad Dharma song that my dear Lord, I don't know why you have brought me here. I guess you must have some purpose. But he says, Sakalli Sambhava Tumise Kautuki. My dear Lord, by your inconceivable potency, everything is possible. So, Tomara Ichhaye Sabha Hoye Mayavash, Tomara Ichhaye Nasha Maya Raparash. It is by your arrangement, everybody has come under Maya. If your will is there, then you please give me the words by which I can make your message understandable to them. Alankruta Koribara Kamata Tomar. You have the power to make my words, to ornament my words in such a way that they can be understandable to them. And you can nachao, Prabhu, nachao, se mate. So it is, Krishna is omnipotent. Now, will Krishna use us to do extraordinary things? Krishna can if he wants. But even if Krishna doesn't, if we try to serve Krishna. In that attempt, it is up to Krishna to decide. Recently, when you were asking me, when we say that become an instrument in God's hands, what does it mean? Does it mean that you credit to Krishna for everything that we do? Well, yes, that's true. But to become an instrument means, it's like if a warrior is there. With the warrior, there is a sword, there is a bow and arrow, there might be a spear, there might be a mace. Now, it's up to the warrior to choose which weapon to use. But all the weapons are there, ready for the warrior. So like that, when we want to be an instrument, that means we are ready to serve. Now, it's up to the warrior to decide which weapon they will use. So, whether and how we will be used, we will be engaged by Krishna, that is up to Krishna. So, some devotees, they were used to do extraordinary service. Now, others, you may say, no, what about they are not used? And you see some devotees, they start distributing books and they just distribute books as if it's like they are distributing gulab jamun and people are running to take gulab jamun. They seem to have that ability. They distribute something 1,000 books in one day. Was devoting 1,000 books in a year, they will not be able to distribute. So Krishna can empower people in some ways. Some devotees, they give classes and thousands are mesmerized. Some devotees, they raise funds. And it's just amazing how they Krishna manifests his vibhuti through them. Some kids do kirtans. It's amazing. So Krishna can use different people as instruments in miraculous ways. But the important thing is that even if Krishna does not use us as an instrument to do something extraordinary, but by our readiness to be used, something extraordinary will happen to us. It is we will become purified just by that surrender. So, there are two different things. When we have that desire to serve, when we have that, we take the responsibility to be an instrument. Then, there are two kinds of extraordinary things that can happen. One is, extraordinary things can happen through us. That is, we do amazing service, and the amazing nature of that service is manifested in this world also. But even if that doesn't happen, extraordinary things will happen to us. That means our heart will get transformed. And in one sense, this is guaranteed. Krishna says, this is uncertain. It depends on Krishna. But this is certain. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjay spoke the same Gita to Duryodhana. To Dhritarashtra. Sanjay's heart was not transformed. Dhritarashtra's heart was not transformed. But Sanjay's heart was transformed. Rishyami cha muhurmu, rishyami cha puna puna. So, in one sense, what Krishna with karmanneva adhikaraste mahapadeshu gadacha Muni says, that is demonstrated in the last 5 verses of the Gita, 74 to 78. So the Gita could have ended in 1873 when Krishna and Arjuna's conversation is over. Why are the next 5 verses there? And there, although Sanjay did not experience success in changing Dhritarashtra's heart, but just by speaking the message, Sanjay's heart changes. And that is the glorious thing. So in that sense, in the endeavor of bhakti, there will always be success. Now, this inner success will always be there. Now, the outer success, it will also be there, but the extent of it will depend on Krishna. But if we just take up the sacrifices of taking up responsibility to become an instrument according to our capacity, then Krishna will do wonders either through us or at least to us. And that is the common principle. Just as Lord Rama empowered Hanuman to go to Lanka. That's actually, that's what I'm going to speak on the main part of the class, but I don't think we'll have time for that. But I'm going to speak on how this Lord Ram empowered Hanuman to go to Lanka. And one of the most beautiful parts of not one of the most beautiful part, the most cherished part of the Ramayana is the Sundarkand. So similarly, it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who implored Prabhupada to come here to America. And one says the most beautiful part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, at least for us as followers of Prabhupada, is the pastimes of Prabhupada. They are not different. Just like in the Sundarkand, actually in most of the Sundarkand, Lord Ram is not present at all. Right in the beginning and only at the end. Like that, actively speaking, in Prabhupada Leela, Mahaprabhu is not present. But Mahaprabhu is there everywhere. It is by Mahaprabhu's mercy. So, what is the Sundarkand in Ramayana that is similar to Prabhupada Leela Amrit? That it's Prabhupada's pastimes are the manifestation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy in the life of a devotee who took up the responsibility to serve the Lord. See, when Hanuman went to Lanka, Hanuman did not know that he had all those abilities. Because of the curse, he had forgotten those abilities. But Lord Ram wants me to do it, I will do it. And then at the right time, he was reminded of those abilities and manifested those abilities. So Prabhupada, in one sense, he had very little success in the outreach in India. Prabhupada, with confidence in Mahaprabhu, went to America and all over the world. And Krishna worked through Prabhupada in extraordinary ways. So the sweetest verses in the Nam Ramayana is 118s of Lord Ram, and they summarize the entire pastime. So it is Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama Tadgati Vigna Dhumsaka Rama. So Kapivara is Hanuman. Santata Chintita Rama. So Hanuman constantly remembered Lord Ram. And what did Lord Ram do in return? Tadgati, in his progress, in his pathway, Vigna, whatever obstacles were there, Dhumsaka Rama. So although Lord Ram was not there, Lord Ram was there in his heart acting, and Lord Ram was acting externally, removing obstacles for him. And that is a dynamic that can manifest in the lives of all of us. That if we take up the responsibility to serve the Lord, when we say remember Krishna, it's not just forget the word and remember Krishna. It's remember Krishna so that we can be empowered to serve the Lord and do His mission in this world. So let's recite this once and then we'll stop. I'll summarize this off. So this is a very nice meditation. Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama. Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama. Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama. Tadvara Santata Chintita Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. Both lines together once. Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. Kapivara Santata Chintita Rama. Tadgati Vigna Dhamsaka Rama. You know, the same mood is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Kathanchan Smriteyas. He said that if you remember Lord Chaitanya, then the impossible becomes possible. That is the power of the remembrance of the Lord. And that is what Prabhupada gives us to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So many resources by which you can remember the Lord and thereby become empowered. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. Our broad topic was the parallels in Ram Leela and Gaur Leela. And the many parallels. So the first was right from the beginning of, like, there is always sacrifice to make the Lord appear. So both Vachimata, Niganath Mishra and Dashrath and his queens, they had to do sacrifice. And then when the Lord appears, He has one common mission. He descends to inspire our ascent. the human ascent. And the human ascent happens in two different ways. It is dharma for at that time. But then it is his lila and his shiksha that is there for all time. And through that is the legacy that he leaves for everyone to take it forward. Then we discussed about how there was heartbreak for the both fathers. For Dashrath Maharaj, it was that his son had to go away and he became the cause of his son's going away. For Jagannath Mishra, it was that one of his sons had gone away and the other may also go away. And he just said, I can't live to see that. And then we discussed that particular verse. And so the Tattvas Vistri Raja Lakshmi. There we discussed the mood of sacrifice. It was the Ramayana sacrifice, what starts from Dashrath and Ram, that ends with Rama and Sita. So the greatest sacrifice is, in one sense, where we sacrifice a lot and we sacrifice even the good name or the good name from piety. We don't even get that. So first we sacrifice the bad, then we sacrifice the material, then we sacrifice the good material, good things, but then even good subtle things sacrifice. Then that sacrifice Sita performed. And for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when we talk about his sannyas, that was not out of frustration. Many people, when they contemplate sannyas, they think it's renunciation, but it's primarily frustration. The difference is like the difference between starving and fasting. It is the desire is there, but the ability is not there. That's frustration. But the ability is there, but the desire is not there. That's real renunciation. The last part we discussed is that what we do, we don't have to necessarily take sannyas, but we also take up responsibility to serve. And responsibility means it is our response to God's ability. So it is God has unlimited ability, and when we become an instrument. So this is Prabhupada took the responsibility. Nachao from nachao simate. So by that, there will be outer miracle that can happen through us, and there is the inner miracle that will happen to us. And this is certain to happen. And that's the ultimate success for us in our spiritual life. That we become connected with the Lord, and according to how the Lord wants to use us, we connect others with the Lord. Thank you very much. Hare. Do you have any questions? Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
One question. Why Mother Sita didn't fought with Ravan when we know that the Sita Mata is more powerful than the Ravan? When Sita Mata is a child, that time she pulled up Shivdhanus, but Ravana didn't pull up that Shivdhanus. So any specific reason she didn't fought with Ravan?
Yeah. Well, there's one answer which can seem to be like a non-answer. That is the Leela of the Lord. But there are other reasons also. See, there is Leela, but there's another point over there. That in general, if you see within the pastimes of the Lord, the omnipotence of the Lord, or actually omnipotence of the associates of, in this case of the consort of the Lord, that is very rarely manifested. It is not very rarely, but it is intermittently manifested. It is that, see, Lord Ram is God. Now God means everywhere has hands and legs. So when Sita is being abducted, now Lord Ram, he can just extend his hands and catch her out. Isn't it? Or Lord Ram can just show his Vishwarupa and he will be there right next to him. So the whole point of this whole pastime in Ramlila is that it is to teach human beings how to function. So now if you see, that's why one of the names of Lord Rama is Agastyanugraha Vardhita Rama. That by the blessings of Agastya, he became even more powerful, the sage Agastya. Now we say Lord Ram is the one who is giving all blessings, including to Agastya. So why does he, in fact, according to some writings of Rama, is that when he remembers what Agastya has told him, then he meditates and then gets that power. That's when he's able to kill Ravana. So the idea is, Lord Ram is not acting like God. He's acting like a human being, ideal human being. And as an ideal human being, he faces struggles. Now he's extraordinary in archery. There's no doubt that, but that's like his superlative talent. That doesn't mean. It's not that he's exhibiting omnipotence while he's fighting. He's exhibiting superlative ability. So he rarely exhibits his godhood over there. So that's why Lord Ram, with his own arrows he can kill. But Lord Ram uses Brahmastra, he uses other astras to kill the various demons. Why? Because the whole point is that if a human being faces adversities, then what does a human being do? A human being should do tapasya and with higher blessings gain powers. So whether it is by the blessing of the sages one gets powers, or whether it is blessing by the devatas one gets power. But the principle is, the whole pastime of Lord Ram is not where the Lord is. The entire Ram Leela in general is about ideal behavior for a human being. And that is why, to some extent, as we carefully understood that, to some extent, like some people when they read the Valmiki Ramayana and they read the Ramcharitmanas, they feel the bhakti comes much more in Ramcharitmanas than in Valmiki Ramayana. And yes, there is a truth to that. Or not as for Ramcharitmanas, many other later retellings of the Ramayana. The bhakti seems to be more. Because why? The Valmiki Ramayana's purpose is to demonstrate how an ideal person behaves in the challenges of this world. And that's why the divinity of Lord Ram is not too much emphasized. Because then they can say, no, he's God, he can do anything, I can't do that. Isn't it? So that's not the mood over there. And in one sense, that's why we'll see in the Ramayana, the other characters are also glorious. Lakshman sacrifice is great, Bharat sacrifice is great. And when they are doing the sacrifice, we are not emphasizing that they are God. So the divinity, in one sense, divinity is somewhat downplayed. It is definitely there, but it is downplayed. As compared to that, the subsequent tellings of the Ramayana, retellings of the Ramayana, many of them are not so much to demonstrate how Lord Ram is an ideal human being. It is to demonstrate how wonderful is Lord Ram. And how wonderful he is and how we should be devoted to. So it's like there are two different purposes. That Lord Ram as an ideal human being and I as the wonderful Lord. Wonderful, worshipable Lord. These are two different purposes in one sense. So, in the subsequent retelling, the second purpose has been emphasized. This is Valmiki Ramayana's purpose. And this is retellings. So, at least in the original book, the divinity is not of Ram is not emphasized. And Sita also, there are indications, no doubt about it. But it is not emphasized. So that's why in the mood of the overall pastime, it is that Sita could have exhibited her omnipotence and she could have dealt with Ravana. But does that teach anything to any people in today's world or in subsequent world? We don't have that kind of omnipotence. So, as Sita plays the role that can inspire people who go through similar difficulties. Now, how to act in that situation. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Juma.
Thank you, Prabhu. First off, excellent method of the presentation, both what you're writing and speaking. It absorbs the mind so it doesn't run here and there. So thank you for that, Prabhu. My question is regarding that sacrifice and frustration. So we have the tendency to enjoy but not the ability. And renunciation is when you have the ability but you don't want to enjoy it. Now I was thinking about our sadhana. So we had a life before Krishna consciousness, which was sense gratification, and now we have our do's and don'ts that we're following. So because of our conditioning, Prabhu, there is a level of frustration. You want to enjoy, but as a discipline you're holding back. And then what happens as time goes by, this becomes very mechanical. And there is always some residual hankering that I want to go back. Or, am I doing the right thing, doubt, whatever. All this thing comes in. But it's a discipline and it's as though like a force. It's not coming naturally, though it's natural. So Prabhu, what is it that a sadhaka can do that though he has that desire to enjoy, it makes no difference to him? Of course, sadhana will take you there one day, but the process to reach there itself is very frustrating for appears at times.
Yes, thank you, sir. It's a almost universally relatable question. There are two different things over here. If we consider the spectrum of activities in bhakti, there are some activities in which we require strength. That means, say, we have a fast on Ekadashi, maybe that requires strength. We chant some extra rounds. There are regular rounds. A chanting may require the strength. But then there are some activities which give strength also. Maybe we like to come in association with devotees, we like kirtan, we like to hear classes. There are things like that. So bhakti is not one monolithic thing. That okay, I have to push myself in everything. There are some aspects of bhakti I need to push myself in, and there are some aspects which they pull me towards them. So we need to make sure that if we have the activity that gives strength, we do them sufficiently. Sufficiently means that we do them at least enough so that we have the strength. Now we may say our sadhana itself is supposed to give us the strength. Yes, that is true, but each of us has a personal relationship with Krishna. And that's why you cannot say mechanically, you do the 1, 2, 3, you take a list of bullet points and then you will feel connected with Krishna. No, for some people it might be more connection through one thing. For some people it might be more connection through another thing. So we need to make sure that we do the activity that connects us with Krishna and give us that strength. And then bhakti will not feel like such a struggle. It is a struggle, but it will not feel that much of a struggle. If we can balance. And similarly, we can say regulation or restraint that is there. There also is a spectrum. There is some regulation that is easy. And there is some regulation that is tough. So for example, if say we are going by a car or by a plane or a train, and say the neighbor next to us is sitting and eating meat. Now, very few of us will feel tempted by the meat. Now that is, you got the higher taste over it. So, now there are some other things. Maybe they're watching some movie and we feel attracted toward that. It's a different thing. So it's not that everything is a struggle. So the things that are easy, or you could say more specifically, have become easy for us. That means maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have attracted to that, but now I am not attracted. So these can give us faith and hope. that the process of bhakti does work. And it has worked in my heart also. There are some conditions which may take more time. And then with respect to that, it is tough. Its regulation it can be done in different ways. Sometimes we may have to negotiate with our mind. Negotiate means that if, say, some desire is very strong, and as long as within the boundaries of dharma, a person can give themselves little leeway. The whole idea is that yukta ahara viharasya, that vihara is also there in bhakti. We call it entertainment. And we follow the entertainment, dancing and kirtans. Well, yes, it is. But each person is an individual. Not everybody will be entertained by the same thing. Different people may need different kinds of unwinding, relaxing. So now, not everything material is the same thing. It's like, say, for example, sometimes we have this idea that this is spiritual and this is material. And I have to give up the material and I have to go towards the spiritual. Well, that is true at one level, but another way of looking at this is, let's say this is spiritual and this is material, and in the material there is sattva, there is rajas, and there is tamas. So sattva is pro-devotional, rajas is non-devotional, tamas is anti-devotional. The three are not the same thing. So if somebody just wants some relaxation, we decide that maybe I'll go for a walk to nature, or we'll go to some peaceful place in the world or somewhere like that. And we say, there's no Krishna. Well, Krishna is there. But if that's what comes as Dhamma Sattvic, there's absolutely no harm in it. In Rajasic, it says that ideally that it's very easy for us to get caught in things. But each person has to find out, especially if a person is serious about practicing bhakti, then they can find out what is required for their mind and body to function most effectively in Krishna's service. So, like, how much food should somebody eat? There's no absolute mandate. In our tradition, we have Rama Goswami and we have Bhimasen also. So we can be in the Bhimasen Parampara. Not much problem. Maybe there is, but the point is that there are some boundaries that are adjustable. And each one of us needs to find out what is the boundary within which I can practice bhakti system. So when we find that out, then, okay, I'll give an example, and don't misquote me or misapply this example. And I'm just giving this as an example to illustrate this point of pro devotion. There's one devotee friend of mine. He was, before coming to bhakti, he was big time into chess. He would have become a chess professional. But then in India at those times, the sport career were not so much encouraged. So he didn't do that, but he loved chess. So he said, I started practicing bhakti, just gave it up. But after 15 years or so, I started feeling a great craving for playing chess. I said, I'm not going to do this. This is Maya. But then he said, one day I just, nowadays you can play computer chess. So he said, I just played a 10-minute game. And he said, just 10-minute game. I just felt so refreshed. And he said, then, after that, I sat down, I was reading the Bhagavatam, and most of the time the reading Bhagavatam, I was feeling sleepy. This day, my mind was sharpened, and I was able to get into the Bhagavatam. This is not a recommendation to play chess. My point is that each one of us has to find out how best we can serve Krishna. So now if that 10 minutes chess game becomes a 1 hour chess game and there's no time for Bhagavatam, that's obviously a possibility. And that possibility one has to guard against that. But if somebody needs to do that, like some devotees, before chanting, they do some deep breathing. Now I say, no, the holy name is the biggest thing. We don't need anything else. True, but it's not mechanical. Each person has their own mind and senses. So if somebody will do some deep breathing, calms their mind down, and then they can focus better on chanting. Instead of seeing that as non-devotional, we see that as anukulyasya sankalpa. Now playing chess might be anukul for someone, playing chess might be pratikul for someone else. That's why there has to be individual responsibility to find the boundaries within which we can function. And when we do that, then bhakti doesn't become such a drag. And of course, we have to be careful that when we expand some boundaries, we don't keep expanding those boundaries. That's why that core honesty and sincerity has to be there. But bhakti should not be constantly a drag. It has to be bhajatam priti purvakam. It shouldn't be bhajata, complaint purvakam. Thank you. Yes, sure. So, I have written a couple of new things. This is my latest book on the Ramayana, Living the Ramayana. So, there are about 9 incidents from the Ramayana that I analyzed, and practical life lessons are drawn. So, one of the traumatic incidents from the Ramayana is Sita's abduction. So now, who is responsible for that? Of course, Ravana is the cause of it. But then Sita, she neglected the boundaries, and she came out. So, what is the role of boundaries in our life? That is explained. Or for that matter, Hanuman was alone in Lanka, and he seemed to be unsuccessful. Nothing was working out. So he was dejected a bit. So when we feel lonely, when we feel like a failure, how can we find strength? What did Hanuman do at that time? How can we find strength and discouragement? So incidents from the Ramayana are narrated and life lessons are drawn from them. That's one book. And this is, I had a calendar last year with 365 quotes. So this is a separate calendar with another set of 365 quotes. They are inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. Each of these is based on one verse of the Gita. Hold your plan lightly, hold your Lord tightly. We often do the opposite. So, people who can't face books take shelter in Facebook. To be detached, you don't need to be cold-hearted. You just need to be level-headed. Emotion is not to be rejected. Domination by emotion is to be rejected. Our spiritual growth does not depend on our ability. It depends on our availability. This is what today we talked about, being an instrument, being ready to be an instrument. So like that, each of these is quote inspired. Each of these is inspired by one verse from the Bhagavad Gita. That verse is mentioned below. If you Google these quotes, they'll take you to my website gitaji.com, where there's an article explaining the quote as well as the verse on which it is based. So, these two are available. I'm also here in case you want for signing the books. I wish you all a very happy Gaur Purnima. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Ramachandra Bhagwan ki jai, Krishna Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta-vrinda ki jai, Gaur
Prabhu ki jai.
Yeah, already.
We go, devotees go there. You can pick up your plate, you can
Come
bring
around
it here,
and
or take it here.
1 minute.
Vrindavan